everyone, it's Cindy from Stamped with Aloha. Today I'm going to teach you how to create a really pretty birthday card. So let's go ahead and get started on today's project. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what inspired my card for today, and that is this journal. So this journal is a gift that I'm going to be giving, and so because it's a journal and has a binding and rounded corners, I wanted to create this card as a book fold card. So the first thing I'm going to show you in this video is how to create a book fold template. So we're going to start with a piece of petal pink cardstock. It's 5.5 by 8.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and place it in my trimmer, and I'm going to just score it right down the middle at 4.25 inches. And then I'm going to bring it back over at 3.5 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and score it again. So I'm going to be using my bone folder right across the edges that I've just scored, and I'm going to fold this one back and just use my bone folder again just to make it nice and crisp. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to take this binding part here and I want to glue it down. So you could use tear and tape, just as a matter of convenience. I'm going to use my liquid glue, and so I'm going to go ahead and place my liquid glue in here. But you definitely want to put something that's going to be strong, that's going to keep this binding in place. And then you just want to give it a little bit of time to dry. But then once it's dried, then this card is going to open like this, okay? So then it's going to look a little bit more like the book. So if you remember, the book that I showed you had rounded corners. So I want to round the two corners of this card as well. So using a corner rounder, I'm going to go ahead and round the corners. For our next step, we're going to add a layer of textured cardstock. So I have a 3.25 by 5.25 piece of the same color, petal pink. And so because I'm going to be laying this over the top, I want to round the corners of this as well. All right, so I've rounded the two corners, and now we want to add the texture. I'm going to be using an embossing folder that is a part of our online exclusives. This is not in our catalog. And I like the subtle texture of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Okay, once you're done running it through the machine, you're going to open it up, and then you'll see that you have this nice, beautiful texture. So I'm going to go ahead and just add some adhesive to the back and glue this to the front of the card. All right, so our card base is already textured, and now we're ready to add our flowers. So let's get out the stamp set. I will be using the Happiness Abounds, which is a set that's currently on our retiring list. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp one of each of these flowers and then some of the leaves on my basic white cardstock using Memento ink. Okay, so now I've stamped about 9 images. And now comes the fun part, at least for me, because I like to color, but we're gonna go ahead and color. All right, so I'm gonna start by just taking this Daffodil Delight color, so this yellow color, and I'm gonna just go ahead and color in this first large flower and just give it a nice coating on the base of the flower. I'm gonna use a bronze marker and just color in the center. And then I'm going to choose like maybe 2 other colors. So I'm going to go with this color here, which is my dark Calypso Coral. And then I'm also going to bring in maybe a little bit of dark Pumpkin Pie. Okay. And I'm going to try not to think too much, but I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to just randomly drop color over different sections, just like that. So 4 little strokes of the dark Calypso Coral. And then let me go in and blend in some pumpkin pie. So I might come to the side of that and overlap just part of it a little bit. And I'm just going to drop pumpkin pie in different areas of the flower, okay? Then I'm gonna come back with my dark daffodil and I'm gonna blend the whole thing together. Okay, so basically you can see that my flower looks like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this same technique, mixing different colors. So it's just kind of fun. I'm just gonna do a combination, because if you look at the flowers on the front of this journal, you see a whole bunch of colors. You see yellows and purples and pinks and oranges, and even on the leaves are two-tone. So for the leaves, I'm gonna do colors like this. I'm gonna mix my Granny Apple Green. So I'll put Granny Apple Green first, just a solid base. And then I'm going to mix that with some Old Olive. If you don't want as much of a contrast, then you could mix it with maybe the darker Granny Apple Green. And so then I've got a little bit of darker color over there, and then again I'm going to blend it together. But maybe I'm only going to kind of blend it in the middle there, and then you're going to see 3 different colors on this leaf like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this and quickly color all of these with that variety of colors. Okay. Okay, so all my coloring is done. I left these leaves pretty much just solid with one color, but you can see on all of these other ones, I tried to just do different patterns. I kind of concentrated the colors on this one all towards the center. This one I kind of put all the different colors all around the edges. This one is kind of in between those, but I really just tried not to think too hard, not to stress about it. Coloring to me is something that's relaxing. And so I just wanted to do something where I blended a bunch of colors together and just layered them on top of each other. I know the video was going fast, but even at the end on this one, I thought, I think I want to give it a little bit more of a pumpkin color. So I went back over the top and just blended more colors on top. So that's the great thing about Stampin' Blends, is that you can layer color on top of color, and you can create a whole variety of marbleized colors like what I have on these flowers right here. Okay, so my flowers are done, and so that means we need to die cut them. So I'll be right back. Let me go run these through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine with the coordinating dies. Okay, so my flowers are all die cut and ready to be adhered to the front of the card. So before we put our flowers on the card, we want to do the sentiment that's going to go on the front of the card. And as you can see on the front of our book here, it had gold letters. So the way that I'm going to do that is to do a little bit of embossing. So I have just a chipboard I'm going to place on top of my mat here. I'm going to get out a 1/2 inch by 2.5 inch of basic white. I have an embossing buddy that I'm just going to rub across there for some static cling. And then I'll be using Versamark ink. And then the sentiment is going to say happy birthday. Now, when you emboss, you want to make sure that you have your embossing powder handy. So I already have, this is my gold embossing powder. I have some already dumped here in a tray that I can reuse, or I can dump some more. And then but I have to remember, once I put this ink to the paper, I got to move quickly to the powder, okay? We don't want it to dry. So I'm going to ink up my stamp. A Versamark pad is a very sticky pad. I'm going to bring it over here onto that little strip, and then I'm going to stamp. And then I'm going to peel that off, and then you'll come over here to the powder, and I'm just going to use this powder that's already in my tray. But I'm just going to run it over there and get lots of powder on there. Shake off the excess, and then we'll be ready to heat it up. Okay, now I'm going to get out my heat tool. I'm going to turn it on. It's very hot, so I'm going to keep my hands away from this end part here. I'll just use my bone folder for a minute, and I'm going to hold this down at one end and just I'm kind of holding it at a funny angle so you can see it on the video. But what's going to happen is it's going to begin to melt together. You can see it's raising up right there as it heats up. And I'm just going to run the heat gun evenly across the surface back and forth until the entire sentiment is embossed. All right, now we are ready to adhere this to some cardstock. I'm going to be using gold specialty cardstock just to add a little extra touch of gold. And I just will get out my multi-purpose glue, my green glue, and we are going to glue that to a slightly larger piece of gold cardstock, and we'll just put those together, and then I'm going to flip this over and add dimensionals on the back. For the next step of this card, we are ready to assemble. So I'm going to take the flowers using my green glue, and I'm going to glue them in a cluster on the front of my card here. Okay, so I'm going to stop this portion and show you that if you'll notice, as it was sped up a little bit, I'm moving these flowers slightly. So one of the reasons why I love to use the liquid glue is because you have a little bit of give to move things around before they dry. So I wanted to make sure that where I'm going to place my sentiment is going to be all covered up and there's not going to be any of the card base showing through. So when I kind of eyeballed it there, then I was able to lay this over the top and then see if I needed to move these around like that. And since it's liquid glue, you can see it gives a little bit of give, okay? All right, so now my flowers are on the card, and I'm gonna just finish this card up by adding a little sparkle with some iridescent rhinestones. And there you go, our card is complete. So let's take a look at our journal again and see how well we did here. So that looks pretty good. I did another version of this card here using another color. This one here was done with Blushing Bride, okay? So after I did the Blushing Bride, I realized that I think this Petal Pink is a little bit of a better match to the journal. Another thing that I did though on this one is after I stamped and colored the flowers, I also took a light pale Stampin' Blend marker and I colored around each image before I die cut it. So if you can see, in this one, it's not as stark and white underneath there. You've got like a soft pink that's behind all the flowers. I just wanted to soften that one up. But then on this one, I remembered that there is a lot of white in here. So on this one, I left it white. So then that just helps the flowers, instead of being softer like these are, then that just gives them a little bit more of a highlight. All right, so the project is complete. I need to go get this in the mail to the birthday girl. And so I wanna just thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video today. I hope that you enjoyed learning how to make this card, and I hope that you'll come back and join me for my next video. I look forward to stamping with you again real soon. Until then, aloha.